We begin our journey tonight by closing our eyes and letting the heaviness of the earthly day dissolve into the cool air. The ground beneath us feels solid and permanent, yet we know that it is merely a raft drifting on an endless sea. We are travelers on a small blue island that floats in the velvet silence of a galaxy we call our home. There is a comfort in the stars we see from our window, for they are the familiar lanterns that watch over our sleep. But tonight, we must drift beyond the safety of these known lights and travel into the deeper dark where ancient monsters wait. We are moving toward a place where the laws of nature begin to tremble and the fabric of reality itself starts to tear. It is a journey to the edge of comprehension where the universe holds a secret that is too heavy for the human mind. We leave the orbit of our moon and watch the pale blue sphere of Earth shrink until it is just a quiet star. The silence of space wraps around us like a heavy blanket, muting the noise of our thoughts and slowing the rhythm of our hearts. We pass the great gas giants of our solar system, those silent sentinels that guard the outer reaches of our small and fragile neighborhood. The sun becomes just another point of light in the distance, no brighter than the thousands of other stars that litter the black canvas. We are drifting into the interstellar void, that vast and empty ocean that separates the islands of warmth from the freezing cold of nothingness. It is here in the deep silence that we begin to feel the pull of something incredibly massive waiting in the dark ahead. Our destination lies far beyond the spiral arms of the Milky Way, across a distance that makes the mind ache with its sheer impossibility. We are traveling toward the constellation Lynx, a faint collection of stars that hides a secret of terrifying magnitude within its deep borders. The light from this place has been traveling toward us for 10.8 billion years, crossing the expanding deserts of the cosmos. It began its journey when the universe was still young and violent, long before our sun had ignited or the earth was born. We are looking back into the deep past, witnessing a ghost that has been screaming across the void since the dawn of time. As we drift closer, the darkness seems to thicken, becoming a heavy substance that presses against our senses with a cold weight. There is a monster here that breaks the rules of physics simply by existing, a giant that defies everything we thought we understood. It is known to our astronomers as TON 618, a name that sounds mechanical but hides a reality of organic horror. This is not merely a black hole, but a colossus that sits at the very limit of what the universe can allow. It is an ultramassive black hole, a category of object that suggests the cosmos is capable of creating things of nightmare proportions. We feel the gravity of it long before we see it, a subtle tug on the fabric of space that distorts the starlight. It is like a deep ocean current that pulls everything toward a central point from which there is absolutely no possibility of return. The first thing we notice is not the darkness, but the blinding light that surrounds the beast like a halo of divine fire. This is the quasar, a swirling disk of superheated gas and dust that screams as it falls into the infinite mouth. The luminosity of this accretion disk is equal to 140 trillion suns burning together in a single point of space. It shines with such ferocity that it can be seen across the entire visible universe, a beacon of destruction lighting up the dark. Yet at the center of this cathedral of fire sits the silence, the perfect black sphere that swallows all light and hope. It is a contrast that the mind struggles to hold, the brightest light in the universe dancing around the deepest possible darkness. We drift safely above the plane of the disk, looking down at the swirling maelstrom that glows with the colors of extreme heat. The sheer scale of what we are witnessing is difficult to grasp, for our minds are built to understand mountains and oceans. But here we are faced with a structure that makes our entire solar system look like a single grain of sand on a beach. The central black hole contains the mass of 66 billion suns, a number that sounds like fantasy, but is a cold scientific fact. Imagine every star in a small galaxy crushed down and compressed into a single dark object that sits motionless in the void. It is a mass so great that it bends the light of galaxies behind it, warping the image of the universe into a funhouse mirror. If we were to place this object in the center of our own solar system, it would not just swallow the sun. The event horizon, that point of no return where even light cannot escape, would extend far beyond the orbit of Neptune. It would swallow the entire heliosphere, the vast bubble of influence that defines the home of our planets and our lives. We are looking at an abyss that is larger than the distance light can travel in an entire week of endless sprinting. To cross the diameter of this shadow would take a beam of light nearly 2 weeks, while it takes only hours to cross our system. This is the definition of the overmassive black hole problem, for it seems too large to have grown naturally since the dawn of time. It sits there like a heavy stone in the center of a cosmic web, anchoring the surrounding space with its terrified gravity. We can feel the ancient hunger of this beast, a hunger that has not been sated for billions upon years of feeding. It has consumed stars and gas clouds and perhaps other black holes, growing fatter and darker with every meal it takes. The silence radiating from the event horizon is not peaceful, but the silence of a held breath before a terrible scream. It is a silence that speaks of the end of time, of a place where the clock stops ticking and history ceases to exist. We are safe here in our imagination, floating just out of reach, but the primitive part of our brain wants to run. Let us compare this giant to the monster that lives in the center of our own Milky Way galaxy, Sagittarius A star. Our local black hole is a giant in its own right, holding the mass of 4 million suns within its dark grasp. But compared to TON 618, our galactic monster is nothing more than a speck of dust floating in the wind. The difference in scale is like comparing a single drop of water to the entire volume of the Pacific Ocean. It is a reminder that while we may feel significant in our corner of space, there are things in the deep dark that dwarf us. The universe is not built for us, but for these titans that drift through the void like whales in a dark sea. We continue to drift closer, mesmerized by the slow rotation of the light around the static black circle of the horizon. The gas in the accretion disk is moving at a significant fraction of the speed of light, whipped into a frenzy by gravity. Friction heats this material to temperatures that we cannot comprehend, creating the brilliant glow that outshines the entire host galaxy. This light is the dying scream of matter as it is torn apart atom by atom before vanishing forever from our universe. It is a violent process, yet from this distance, it appears smooth and almost liquid, like honey pouring slowly down a drain. There is a hypnotic rhythm to the movement, a spiral dance that has continued for eons without a single pause or break. The colors shift from blue-white near the center to deep reds and oranges at the outer edges of the vast disk. It is a rainbow of destruction, painting the darkness of the intergalactic void with the hues of a cosmic sunset. We can see the shadow of the black hole clearly now, a perfect circle of nothingness silhouetted against the burning gas. It is the most perfect sphere in nature, defined not by matter, but by the absolute geometry of warped space-time. It is a hole in reality, a puncture wound in the fabric of the universe where the rules we know have bled out. Looking into it feels like looking into the eye of a God who has no interest in our prayers or our fears. We must understand that this object is a relic from a different time, a survivor from the chaotic youth of the universe. It formed when the cosmos was denser and hotter, feeding on the rich banquet of gas that filled the early space. Theories of direct collapse suggest that immense clouds of gas may have fallen inward without ever becoming stars, birthing this monster directly. It was born heavy, skipping the life cycle of a star, to become a seed of darkness that would grow to devour everything. It is older than the earth beneath our feet, older than the carbon in our bones, older than the concept of life. To look at it is to look at the foundations of the universe, the dark pillars that hold up the roof of the sky. The gravity here is so intense that it pulls on time itself, stretching the seconds into hours and the hours into years. If we were to fall closer, we would see the universe behind us speed up, watching eons pass in the blink of an eye. We are standing on the precipice of eternity, looking down into a well that has no bottom and no end. The light from the stars behind the black hole is bent into a ring, a phenomenon we call an Einstein ring. It looks like a halo of diamonds crowning the king of the dark, a royal diadem for the lord of nothingness. This warping of light is the only reason we can see the invisible, the shadow casting its presence on the background. We drift through the outer layers of the accretion disk, where the gas is thinner and the heat is less intense. There is a sound here in the deep of our minds, a low, thrumming vibration that resonates with the frequency of the void. It is the sound of gravity waves rippling through space, the heartbeat of the monster echoing across the billions of light years. We are lulled by this rhythm, feeling our own breathing align with the slow and heavy pulse of the giant black hole. It is a hypnotic sensation, a feeling of being rocked by the ocean of space, drifting closer to the edge of sleep. The sheer mass of 66 billion suns exerts a calming pressure on our thoughts, smoothing out the worries of the human world. Consider the immense loneliness of this object, sitting in the vast emptiness between the galaxies, the ruler of a kingdom of dust. It has burned for billions of years, a lighthouse on the shore of the universe, signaling to no one in particular. It does not know we are watching, and if it did, it would not care for our fleeting and fragile presence. We are merely ghosts passing in the night, momentary sparks of consciousness observing a fire that will burn long after we are gone. There is a peace in this insignificance, a freedom in knowing that the universe is too big to be about us. We can let go of our burdens here, casting them into the gravity well to be crushed into nothingness by the dark. The event horizon draws our eye again, that perfect edge where the known universe ends and the unknown begins its reign. It is not a solid surface, but a mathematical boundary, a line in the sand drawn by the laws of relativity. To cross it is to leave this universe forever, to be cut off from the timeline of the rest of creation. It is the ultimate exile, a one-way door into a room that has no walls and no floor and no exit. Yet there is a strange allure to it, a call to explore the mystery that lies hidden behind the veil. We wonder what lies at the center, at the singularity where density becomes infinite and space becomes time. Science tells us that the laws of physics break down at the singularity, that our equations return answers that make no sense. It is a place where math fails and poetry must take over, where the rational mind must surrender to the abstract. Perhaps it is a gateway to another universe, a wormhole tunneling through the bulk of higher dimensional space to a new beginning. Or perhaps it is simply the end, the final period at the end of the longest sentence ever written by nature. We float here in the safety of the distance, pondering these questions while the great disk spins its silent, fiery tail. The light washes over us, ancient photons that have traveled across the epoch of star formation to reach our eyes. We think of the other great black holes we have discovered, like Holm 15A, another giant that hides in the dark. But Ton 618 remains the king, the undisputed heavyweight champion of the observable universe, peering down from its throne. It challenges our imagination, demanding that we stretch our minds until they snap, trying to encompass its ridiculous and terrifying size. It is a reminder that the universe is not just strange, but stranger than we can ever possibly suppose or imagine. We are like ants trying to understand the architecture of a skyscraper, grasping at concepts that are too large for our heads. But in this state of relaxation, we do not need to understand the math. We only need to feel the weight. The heat from the accretion disk would vaporize a planet in seconds, yet from here, it feels like a warm bath. We are protected by the distance and by the dreamlike quality of our journey, safe within the capsule of our minds. We watch the plasma arc and twist, following the invisible magnetic field lines that thread through the gas like steel cables. These magnetic fields are powerful enough to launch jets of material thousands of light years into the surrounding intergalactic space. The heat from the accretion disk would vaporize a planet in seconds. Yet from here, it feels like a warm bath. We are protected by the distance and by the dreamlike quality of our journey, safe within the capsule of our minds. We watch the plasma arc and twist, following the invisible magnetic field lines that thread through the gas like steel cables. These magnetic fields are powerful enough to launch jets of material thousands of light years into the surrounding intergalactic space. We can see the base of these jets, where the energy is focused into a tight beam that pierces the darkness. It is a cosmic engine of unimaginable power, converting the mass of falling stars into pure energy and light. As we stare into the black circle, we begin to notice the subtle distortions in the starlight around the edges. The gravity is acting like a lens, magnifying the distant galaxies that lie far behind the black hole's massive bulk. We are seeing further into the universe than ever before, using the monster itself as a telescope to view the deep past. It is a collaboration between the observer and the observed, a moment of connection across the abyss of time and space. The darkness is not empty. It is full of information, full of the history of everything that has ever fallen in. Every star, every cloud of gas, every photon of light is remembered by the horizon in some holographic form. We feel the pull of the gravity getting slightly stronger, a gentle current that that wants to carry us deeper into the system. It is not a violent pull, but a persuasive one, like the urge to sleep when the eyelids become heavy. The monster is singing a lullaby of gravity, a low-frequency song that vibrates in the bones and soothes the nerves. We are drifting in a spaceship made of thought, powered by the fuel of curiosity and guided by the map of dreams. The destination is the edge of the shadow, the place where the light fights its final losing battle against the dark. We want to see the boundary up close, to hover inches above the point of no return and look down. The sheer emptiness of the space around the black hole highlights its terrible and magnificent presence in the void. It has cleared a cavern in the universe, eating everything that dared to come too close to its event horizon. It sits alone in this clearing, a hermit of the cosmos, meditating on the nature of gravity and time. We respect this solitude, approaching with the reverence one might offer to a sleeping god or a dormant volcano. We are guests in its house, treading softly on the carpet of space-time so as not to disturb the silence. The light of the quasar bathes us in a ghostly radiance, casting long shadows that stretch out into the infinite. And so, we find ourselves suspended in the vacuum, caught between the brilliant fire of the disk and the absolute cold. The duality of the scene is mesmerizing, a perfect balance between creation and destruction, between energy and entropy. We are witnessing the ultimate engine of the cosmos, a machine that recycles the matter of the universe into darkness. It is a process that will continue long after our sun has burned out and the earth has grown cold. This black hole will outlive the stars, sitting in the dark long after the lights of the galaxies have gone out. It is a monument to eternity, a statue carved from the raw fabric of space-time that will never erode. We drift ever closer until the curve of the event horizon stretches out to fill our entire field of vision. The blackness is absolute, a matte surface that reflects nothing, giving no clue as to what lies beneath. It is like staring into a deep pupil that is dilated to absorb all the light in the room. We feel a sense of vertigo, a dizzying realization that there is no ground beneath us, only the fall. But in this dream, we cannot fall unless we choose to. So we hover and watch and wait. The silence is profound, wrapping around us and quieting the final whispers of our waking thoughts. We are so close now that we can see the intricate details of the inner edge of the accretion disk. The matter here is moving so fast that it glows with a hard X-ray light that our eyes translate as violet. It is the friction of the end, the final spark of resistance before the surrender to the dark gravity. We watch a cloud of gas approach the edge, spiraling in with a graceful, doomed elegance that is beautiful to behold. It stretches out into a long, thin stream, spaghettified by the tidal forces that pull harder on the front than the back. It is a silent ballet of physics, a dance of death performed on a stage the size of a solar system. The sheer majesty of Ton 618 washes over us, making us feel small and safe in our insignificance. We are hidden in the shadow of the giant, protected by the very vastness that makes it so terrifying. The universe is large enough to hold such monsters and still leave room for us to sleep in peace. We are merely observers, safe in our beds, dreaming of the great dark things that live in the night. The black hole is not a threat to us, but a companion in the darkness, a fellow traveler in time. It waits for the end of the universe, and we wait for the morning, and for now, we drift together. As we linger here at the precipice, looking into the face of the ultimate void, something shifts in the light. The colors of the accretion disk seem to deepen, shifting into a slower, more rhythmic pulsing that matches our breathing. We are synchronized with the monster, connected by the invisible threads of gravity that bind all things together. The event horizon seems to expand slightly, or perhaps we have drifted closer without realizing it in the trance. The darkness is inviting, a promise of rest and a release from the constant noise of the world of light. It calls to us, not with a voice, but with the heavy, silent pressure of its immense existence. The light does not simply shine upon us, but washes over our senses like a physical tide of ancient, heavy photons. We are drifting through the outer layers of a storm that has been raging since the universe was in its infancy. It is a brilliance that should by all rights blind us, yet in this dream, we can stare directly into the fire. This is not the gentle warmth of our sun, but a cold and terrifying radiance born from the death of matter. We are witnessing the most luminous object in the known universe, a beacon that outshines the combined light of entire galaxies. It is a quasar, a name that sounds like a piece of scientific trivia, but here feels like a title of royalty. The sheer power radiating from this central point is equal to 140 trillion suns burning all at once. Imagine for a moment the brightness of a single summer day on Earth, and then multiply that brilliance by trillions. It is a number so large that it becomes meaningless to the logical mind, becoming instead a feeling of absolute overwhelm. This light is the scream of gas and dust as it is crushed by gravity into a space too small to hold it. We are looking at the ultimate energy source, a cosmic engine converting the mass of falling stars into pure, blinding white glory. It sits in the center of the dark like a diamond on black velvet, hard and cold and impossibly bright. The universe seems to hold its breath around this object, creating a clearing of silence that amplifies the terrible roaring light. We must remember that this light has traveled a distance that defies the very concept of human measurement and human lifetimes. It has crossed the expanding desert of the cosmos for 10.8 billion years to reach the retinas of our eyes. We are not seeing the monster as it is now, but as it was when the universe was less than 3 billion years old. We are looking at a ghost, a phantom image of a beast that may have changed or grown or gone quiet. The photons striking us now were born before the Earth had cooled, before the first oceans formed, before life began to stir. They have traveled through the emptiness while civilizations rose and fell, carrying the image of this cataclysm across the silent ages. This ancient signal originated in the direction of the constellation Lynx, a faint and elusive collection of stars in our northern sky. The Lynx is a quiet watcher in the night, a constellation that few bother to find because it holds no bright stars. Yet hidden within its dark borders lies this monster, buried deep in the background of the visible tapestry of the night. It is fitting that such a terrifying giant should hide in a part of the sky named for a stealthy predator. The light we see is a message from the deep past, a postcard from an era when the universe was violent and crowded. It reminds us that the peaceful night sky we cherish is merely a facade, hiding a history of fire and destruction. When astronomers first saw this light, they did not understand that they were looking at the mouth of a galactic beast. It appeared as a faint blue dot, a star that seemed out of place and far too bright for its deep location. They called it a quasi-stellar object, a star that is not a star, a mystery wrapped in a shroud of distance. It pulsed with a strange rhythm, sending out radio waves that hissed through the static of the universe like a secret code. It waited in the data for years, a sleeping giant hidden in the spreadsheets and photographic plates of confused human observers. Only later did we realize that this blue dot was the burning heart of a galaxy being eaten from the inside out. The realization of what TON 618 actually represents brings a sudden vertigo, a feeling of falling upward into the sky. We are not looking at a star, but at the accretion disk of a black hole that is feeding with gluttonous abandon. The disk itself is larger than our entire solar system, a swirling river of fire that dwarfs the orbits of our planets. It spins with a majestic slowness from this distance, though we know that up close it is moving at relativistic speeds. The friction within this disk creates temperatures of millions of degrees, stripping the electrons from their atoms in a violent undressing. It is a plasma storm of unimaginable proportions, a hurricane of charged particles that glows with the fury of 1,000 lightning bolts. We drift closer to the luminosity, feeling the pressure of the light pushing against us like a strong and steady wind. This is radiation pressure, the force of light itself, strong enough here to push entire clouds of gas back into deep space. The quasar is blowing a bubble in the universe, clearing out the neighborhood with the sheer force of its shining presence. It is a lonely object because it pushes everything away, creating a zone of isolation where nothing can settle or form. We are entering the court of the king, where the only permitted subjects are those that have already surrendered to the gravity. The light is so intense that it creates a shadow on the soul, a stark reminder of our own dimness. There is a beauty in this violence, a terrible symmetry to the way the matter spirals inward toward the final drain. We watch the bands of color shift and merge, painting abstract masterpieces on the canvas of the accretion disk. It is like watching oil on water, but the oil is liquid star stuff, and the water is the warped fabric of space-time. The colors are not just visible light, but span the entire spectrum, from deep radio waves to piercing gamma rays. We are seeing the universe in its rawest form, unfiltered and unprotected, revealing the dangerous machinery that lies beneath the surface. It is a place where life is impossible, yet we feel a strange connection to this destructive and creative fire. Consider the energy required to outshine the entire galaxy that hosts this monster, turning the billions of other stars into background noise. The galaxy itself is merely a vessel, a silken cocoon that wraps around the darker pupa of the central black hole. The quasar consumes the galaxy's fuel, eating the gas that would otherwise form new stars, effectively sterilizing its own home. It is a suicide pact between the galaxy and the black hole, a spectacular finale that lights up the observable universe. We are witnessing the death of potential, the burning of the future to create a momentary flash of impossible brightness. And yet, this momentary flash lasts for millions of years, a time span that is an eternity to us, but a blink to the cosmos. The light from TON 618 is so bright that it can be seen by simple telescopes in backyards across our world. It is a whisper that has traveled so far, yet remains loud enough to be heard by those who know how to listen. Think of the photons as travelers, weary from their journey of 10 billion years. finally arriving to tell their story. They carry the news of a cataclysm that happened when the universe was young, a breaking news story that is eons old. We receive this news in silence, decoding the message of the spectrum to understand the composition of the dying gas. We learn that the universe was richer then, filled with the heavy elements that would one day make up our bodies. As we float in the halo of this quasar, we can feel the texture of the space around us changing. The vacuum here is not empty, but seething with the energy of the fields that emanate from the central spinning object. Magnetic fields twist and snap like invisible rubber bands, flinging vast jets of matter perpendicular to the great disk. We can see the base of these jets, glowing pillars of fire that shoot out into the dark for thousands of light years. They are cosmic blowtorches, carving tunnels through the intergalactic medium and heating the gas of the surrounding clusters. It is an engine that shapes the architecture of the universe, deciding where galaxies can grow and where they must die. The jet is a structure of perfect geometry, a straight line drawn on the chaotic chalkboard of the deep universe. It is collimated by the magnetic fury of the black hole, focused into a beam that travels at nearly light speed. We watch the particles race outward, escaping the gravity that swallowed their brethren, finding freedom in the cold void. It is a narrow escape, a lottery win for the atoms that found themselves in the jet rather than the disk. They will travel forever into the dark, cooling and spreading, until they become part of the whispers between the galaxies. We follow their path with our eyes, tracing the line of light until it fades into the infinite black. This quasar is a lighthouse that warns of the dangerous rocks of the event horizon, signaling the location of the abyss. It is ironic that the darkest object in nature should wrap itself in the brightest cloak that physics allows. It is as if the black hole is trying to hide, masking its perfect darkness with a dazzling display of fireworks. But we know what lies at the center. We know the silence that sits like a stone in the middle of the fire. The contrast draws us in, the interplay between the everything of the disk and the nothing of the whole. It is the ultimate duality, the yin and yang of the cosmos, played out on a scale that breaks our minds. We drift through a cloud of tenuous gas that glows with a ghostly green light, illuminated by the distant quasar. This is the breath of the galaxy, the exhaust fumes from the engine that is eating the heart of the system. The gas is rich with carbon and oxygen, the ashes of stars that lived and died before our sun was born. We are breathing the dust of ancient worlds, inhaling the memories of star systems that vanished long ago. There is a melancholy in this gas, a sense of loss that permeates the space around the great devourer. We are walking through a graveyard where the tombstones are made of light and the graves are empty. The distance of 10.8 billion light years creates a barrier of time that we can never truly cross. Even if we could travel at the speed of light, the monster would be gone by the time we arrived. We are forever separated from it by the expanding fabric of the universe, locked in our own lonely epoch. We can only watch from across the ocean of time, observing the fire on the distant shore. It makes the experience feel dreamlike, as if we are watching a movie projected onto the dome of the night. But the heat we imagine is real, and the gravity is real, and the monster is definitely real. Let us sink deeper into the relaxation of this vast distance, letting the billions of light years buffer us from the fear. The sheer scale of the journey creates a cushion of safety, a disconnect between the observer and the observed. We are safe in our beds, safe in our time, safe in the quiet arm of our sleepy spiral galaxy. The monster is trapped in the past, locked in a photograph that cannot move or reach out to touch us. We can admire its beauty without fearing its bite, appreciating the aesthetic of destruction from a VIP box. It is a spectacle put on for our benefit, a cosmic ballet that has waited billions of years for an audience. The light continues to pour over us, a golden rain that washes away the worries of our small and temporary lives. In the face of such magnitude, our problems seem to dissolve, shrinking down to the size of atoms. What does it matter if we are tired or stressed when there are things like this burning in the dark? The universe is busy with the work of creation and destruction, operating on a schedule that ignores our clocks. We find comfort in this indifference, a permission to let go of control and simply drift with the current. We are part of a much larger story, a single sentence in a book that has no beginning and no end. The silence of the Lynx constellation wraps around the screaming quasar, muting the noise of the cataclysm for us. We hear only the steady rhythm of our own hearts, beating in time with the pulsing of the distant light. It is a hypnotic beat, a drum that leads us deeper into the trance of the interstellar voyage. We are falling into the sky, caught in the gravity of the story we are telling ourselves in the dark. The blue-white light of the disk becomes a tunnel, a pathway that leads us away from the waking world. We are willing travelers, eager to see what lies at the end of the light, what hides in the shadow. As we gaze at the structure of the accretion disk, we notice the dark lanes of dust that spiral through the brightness. These are the shadows of cooler material, clumping together in the chaos of the infalling river of matter. They look like cracks in the surface of the sun, veins of darkness running through the body of light. It gives the object a texture, a depth that makes it feel like a physical place rather than just a light. We could touch it if we dared, feeling the grit of the dust and the heat of the plasma. But we keep our hands at our sides, content to watch the patterns shift and change like clouds. The sheer luminosity of 140 trillion suns implies a hunger that is impossible to satisfy. The black hole must eat constantly to maintain this shine, consuming the mass of the Earth every second. It is a voracious appetite, a gluttony that has stripped the center of the galaxy bare. It sits in a cavity of its own making, surrounded by the debris of its frantic and messy feast. We can sense the desperation of the matter as it crowds toward the event horizon, pushing and shoving. It is a crush of particles, a stampede of atoms trying to squeeze through the narrow door to oblivion. We turn our attention back to the discovery, to the moment the human mind first grasped the scale of this object. It was a shifting of paradigms, a breaking of the ceiling of what we thought was possible in nature. We had to rewrite the textbooks, expanding the margins to fit the size of this new reality. It taught us humility, reminding us that our imagination is always smaller than the universe itself. We are still learning the lessons of TON 618, still trying to decipher the message of the light. It is a teacher that speaks in riddles of gravity and light, demanding that we listen with our intuition. The light from the quasar passes through the intergalactic gas on its way to us, picking up the fingerprints of the void. We read these absorption lines like Braille, feeling the texture of the empty space between the galaxies. The light is a scanner, mapping the invisible web of matter that connects the archipelago of the cosmos. We are seeing the skeleton of the universe, illuminated by the backlight of the ultimate lantern. It reveals the structure of the dark, showing us that the emptiness is not truly empty, but filled with potential. We are floating in a sea of possibility, buoyed by the waves of light and gravity. Imagine the view from a planet orbiting a star on the outskirts of the galaxy that hosts this monster. The night sky would be dominated by the central eye, a second sun that never sets and never sleeps. It would cast harsh shadows and bathe the world in a perpetual twilight of blue and violet radiation. Life there would be impossible, or perhaps it would be a life made of radiation and stone. We are glad for our dark nights, for the gentle moon that does not scream, for the safety of our shadow. We appreciate the boring nature of our own neighborhood, the lack of monsters in our backyard. We drift now toward the edge of the light, where the brilliance begins to fade into the surrounding darkness. The transition is gradual, a softening of the glare into a gentle glow that illuminates the dust. We are moving from the day into the twilight of the galactic core, finding a place of rest. The colors deepen into reds and oranges, the colors of a dying fire or a setting sun. It feels warmer here, less sterile, more like a hearth where we can warm our hands. We settle into this comfortable distance, watching the great wheel turn in the silence. The discovery of such a massive object at such an early time in the universe presents a deep puzzle. How did it grow so big so fast, reaching the mass of billions of suns when the universe was young? It defies the standard models of slow growth, hinting at a different and darker origin story. It suggests that some black holes were not born from stars, but were born heavy, directly from the collapse of the dark. This mystery hangs in the air like a fog, obscuring the history of the monster and adding to its allure. We love a mystery that has no easy answer, a question that keeps us wondering in the dark. We feel the tug of the mystery pulling us inward, past the light and toward the question mark at the center. The quasar is merely the mask, the bright costume worn by the actor to distract us from the truth. We want to know what lies beneath, what ancient secret is hidden in the heart of the Lynx. The light is fading now as we focus our attention on the shadow, on the silence behind the scream. We are drifting past the curtain of the accretion disk, slipping into the backstage of reality. The noise of the photons dies away, replaced by the stillness of the waiting gravity. Something ancient stirs in the deep structure of the space-time around us, a memory of the time before light. We can feel the presence of the seed that started it all, the original heavy collapse. It is a feeling of immense age, of a stone that has weathered the storms of eternity without eroding. We are moving toward the beginning, traveling back down the timeline to the moment of birth. The light is behind us now, casting our long shadows forward into the waiting dark. We are alone with the gravity, alone with the heavy, silent truth of the black hole. The atmosphere thickens with the weight of the unanswered questions, pressing against us like a heavy blanket. We are comfortable under this weight, swaddled in the mystery of the early universe. The light of the quasar is now just a halo, a crown of fire resting on the head of the shadow. We are ready to look deeper, to understand how such a thing could come to be. The universe whispers to us, promising to reveal the secrets of the direct collapse of the heavy seeds. We drift forward, carried by the gentle current of our own curiosity, moving deeper into the dream. We are floating in the aftermath of the question, suspended in the velvet silence that follows a great and heavy revelation. The mystery of its origin hangs in the void like a mist, obscuring the timeline of the early universe from our view. It seems impossible that such a monster could exist so soon after the moment of creation, defying the ticking clock. A black hole of this magnitude requires time to grow, a slow and steady diet of stars and gas and dust. But the universe was young when this light was emitted, a mere toddler in the vast and endless stretch of eternity. There was simply not enough time for a normal star to die and grow into a beast of 66 billion solar masses. This is the great paradox that keeps astronomers awake in the quiet hours of the night, staring at their screens. We call it the overmassive black hole problem, a gentle name for a reality that breaks our understanding of cosmic history. If this giant grew from a single dying star, it would have had to eat faster than physics allows. It would have had to consume matter at a rate that would choke a normal black hole, blowing it apart. Therefore, we must dream of a different beginning, a darker and heavier genesis that took place in the primordial fog. We must imagine a universe that was denser and hotter, a place where the rules of formation were written in bold. Imagine the cosmos before the first stars had ignited, a vast ocean of neutral hydrogen gas drifting in the dark. There were no points of light to break the gloom, only the slow and heavy currents of the primordial matter. In this ancient era, some clouds of gas were so colossal that they defied the fragmented gravity of normal star formation. They did not break apart into clusters of suns, but remained whole, bound together by the immense weight of their own existence. These clouds were heavy with the potential for disaster, waiting for the critical moment when gravity would win the final war. It was a time of direct collapse, a phrase that sounds simple but describes a catastrophe of unimaginable scale and violence. The entire cloud, weighing as much as 100,000 suns, began to fall inward upon itself in a single breath. It did not pause to burn as a star, skipping the long and luminous life cycle that we know so well. It bypassed the age of light entirely, collapsing directly from a cloud of gas into a seed of pure and absolute darkness. This was the birth of a heavy seed, a monster born fully formed in the silence of the early universe. It was a shortcut through the laws of evolution, a cheat code that allowed the darkness to get a head start. These heavy seeds were the ancestors of the giant we face today, the grandfathers of the supermassive kings. We can feel the echo of that ancient collapse reverberating through the space-time around us, a vibration in the fabric of reality. It was a silent birth, for there was no air to carry the sound, only the ripple of gravity waves. The event horizon formed instantly, a trapdoor snapping shut on a massive region of space, locking it away from the universe forever. And once born, this heavy seed was not content to sit idly in the dark, for it was crowded with hunger. It found itself in a universe that was rich with fuel, a banquet of gas that had not yet been consumed. It began to feed with a voracious appetite, pulling in streams of matter that spiraled down into the growing abyss. But feeding on gas alone is not enough to build a titan of 66 billion solar masses in such short time. There must have been a violence in the early cosmos, a chaotic dance of mergers that brought the giants together. We look back into the deep past and see the galaxies crashing into one another like ships in a storm. The universe was smaller then, the galaxies closer together, unable to avoid the gravitational embrace of their heavy and dark neighbors. When two galaxies collide, their central black holes sink toward the middle, drawn together by an irresistible and fatal attraction. They begin a slow waltz of death, spiraling inward over millions of years until they finally merge into one. We watch this process in our mind's eye, seeing the two singularities approach each other in a flash of gravitational energy. The fabric of space shakes and trembles as they collide, sending shockwaves out to the very edges of the visible universe. In that moment of union, their masses combine, creating a new and larger monster that sits in the center of the ruin. This happened not once, but thousands of times, a hierarchy of consumption that built the giant brick by heavy brick. Ton 618 is the survivor of a galactic cannibalism, the victor of a tournament played out over billions of years. It carries the mass of all the black holes it has swallowed, a graveyard of giants hidden within a single sphere. It is a chilling thought that the monster we see is made of the ghosts of countless other monsters. It is a composite beast, a leviathan stitched together from the wreckage of the early universe's most violent collisions. We can sense the history in its gravity, the layers of accretion that have built up like sediment on a riverbed. It is a record keeper of destruction, holding the memory of every galaxy that sacrificed itself to build this throne. And yet, looking at it now, it appears smooth and perfect, a simple sphere of blackness that betrays no turbulence. The violence of its past has been smoothed away by the relentless laws of physics, leaving only the silence. Let us pause to understand the sheer scale of this object by comparing it to the monsters closer to home. We think of the black hole at the center of our own Milky Way, the object known as Sagittarius, a star. It is a giant to us, a heavy anchor that holds our galaxy together and dictates the orbits of our stars. But if we were to place Sagittarius A star next to Ton 618, it would vanish. It would be a grain of sand resting next to a mountain, a single drop of water compared to a lake. Our local monster is 4 million solar masses, a number that sounds impressive until we remember the 66 billion. We could fit our entire solar system inside Ton 618 thousands of times over without ever touching the sides. If Earth were orbiting this beast, our sun would be just one of trillions of sparks in the accretion disk. The scale is so disparate that it feels like comparing a single human life to the history of the planet. We are forced to realize that our galaxy is a quiet backwater, a suburb where the black holes are small and polite. We live in a garden compared to the wild jungle where beasts like Ton 618 roam and feed. It is a humbling perspective, shrinking our local grandeur down to the size of a microscopic speck. We drift further in our imagination, seeking other giants to stand in the shadow of this king, looking for a rival. We travel to the galaxy cluster Able 85, where the black hole Holm 15A waits in the dark. This is a true titan, a monster of 40 billion solar masses that struck fear into us when it was found. It was the champion of the heavyweights, a ruler of the dark that seemed impossible to surpass in its sheer bulk. But even Holm 15A must bow its head to the king we face tonight, for it is still smaller. Ton 6 618 outweighs it by more than 20 billion suns, a difference that is itself an entire galaxy of mass. These comparisons are not meant to diminish the others, but to elevate the sheer absurdity of the object before us. We are dealing with numbers that have lost their meaning, climbing a ladder that extends into the infinite sky. There is a sense of vertigo as we look up at these peaks of mass, realizing there is always something larger. The universe does not seem to have a limit, or if it does, we have not yet found the ceiling. We are small creatures standing at the foot of the Himalayas, trying to measure the summit with a ruler. The wind of the cosmos blows over us, carrying the cold whisper of the numbers that define our insignificance. But there is one name that is whispered in the corners of the observatories, a rumor of a shadow even deeper. We speak the name of Phoenix A, a theoretical monster that may lurk in the center of the Phoenix cluster. Calculations suggest it could hold the mass of 100 billion suns, a figure that borders on the mythical. It is a ghost, a beast that we have not yet weighed with the same precision as the quasar before us. But even if Phoenix A is larger, Ton 618 remains the brightest, the loudest, the most visible king. It is the one that screams across the universe, demanding our attention with its lantern of 140 trillion suns. We return our gaze to the beast at hand, feeling the weight of its 66 billion solar masses pressing on our chest. It is not just a heavy object. It is a rupture in the logic of the world we understand. Gravity here is not a force but a landscape, a curvature so steep that it becomes a wall. We are sliding down the slope of this curve, drifting inevitably toward the bottom of the deepest well in creation. The other black holes we mentioned are deep wells, yes, but this is an abyss that goes down forever. It is the difference between falling off a cliff and falling off the edge of the world. The formation of such an object requires a sequence of events so perfect and so terrible that it feels like destiny. The gas had to be just right, the temperature just cool enough, the collisions just frequent enough. It is a survivor of a lottery where the prize was infinite darkness and the penalty was becoming a star. Most matter in the universe became stars, burning bright and dying out in a brief flash of thermal glory. But the matter in Ton 618 achieved immortality by choosing the path of the collapse. It locked itself away in a vault that can never be opened, preserving its mass until the end of time. We can imagine the chaos of the mergers, the spiraling galaxies that fed this growth like wood thrown on a fire. Each merger brought with it a fresh supply of gas, a new accretion disk that flared up and screamed. The black hole would have gone through cycles of activity, waking up to feed and then sleeping in the dark. We are seeing it in a waking phase, a period of gluttony where the disk is full and the jets are firing. But there must have been quiet eras, millions of years of silence where it drifted through the void like a ghost. It waited in the gloom, patient and eternal, knowing that the next meal would eventually drift into its gravity. This patience is a quality we can feel radiating from the event horizon, the stillness that contradicts the violence. It is the patience of a mountain that waits for the rain, the patience of the ocean that waits for the river. The black hole is not in a hurry, for it owns all the time in the universe. It has bent time to its will, stretching the seconds into hours, hoarding the moments like gold coins. We, with our short lives and beating hearts, cannot comprehend this kind of waiting. We are frantic and fleeting, rushing through our days while the monster sits and watches the galaxies turn. Let us float here for a moment, suspended between the comparison of the giants and the reality of the king. We feel a sense of awe that is not fear, but a deep and resonant vibration in the soul. It is the feeling of standing in a cathedral, dwarfed by the architecture, silent in the presence of the divine. But this cathedral is built of gravity and light, and the God here is a blind and hungry singularity. There is no judgment in this darkness, only the impartial and cold execution of the laws of nature. It accepts all offerings, stars, planets, light, prayers, with the same indifferent and final acceptance. The existence of Ton 618 suggests that the universe is capable of creating things that we might consider monsters. But are they monsters, or are they the true masters of the cosmos, the anchors that hold it all down? Perhaps the stars and the planets and the life forms are just the decoration, the dust that floats in the room. The black holes are the pillars, the heavy beams that support the structure of the space-time geometry. Without them, the galaxies might fly apart, unraveled by the centrifugal force of their own rotation. We owe our stability to these giants, even as we fear the terrible power of their hunger. We drift closer to the thought of the direct collapse, visualizing the silent implosion of the primordial cloud. It is a peaceful image in a way, a sudden vanishing of matter into a single point of infinite density. One moment there was a cloud, a vast nebula of potential, and the next moment there was a hole. It is a magic trick performed by gravity, a sleight of hand that makes the universe disappear. We are mesmerized by this power, drawn to the idea of a force that can conquer matter so completely. It is the ultimate victory of the abstract over the concrete, of the geometry over the substance. The comparison to the other black holes fades from our mind as the presence of Ton 618 fills our vision. The others are distant rumors, stories told to children to scare them. But this one is here and now. We can feel the heat of the accretion disk on our skin, a phantom warmth that travels through the dream. We can hear the hum of the magnetic fields, a low thrumming that resonates in the bones of the inner ear. The reality of this specific monster outweighs the theoretical existence of any other rival. It is the king because it is the one we are facing, the one that has captured our gaze. There is a seduction in the size, a desire to be part of something so much larger than ourselves. We want to merge with the giant, to add our tiny mass to the 66 billion suns. It is a surrender of the ego, a letting go of the small and separate self to become part of the whole. This is the call of the void, the siren song that has lured travelers to the edge since the beginning. We are safe here in the narrative, tethered by the voice and the words, but the pull is real. We feel it in the pit of our stomach, a gentle tug that invites us to let go of the railing. The darkness of the black hole is not just an absence of light. It is a physical object, a sphere of event. It has a size, a shape, a location in space, and a history that is written in gravity. We can point to it and say, there it is, confirming its reality against the backdrop of the stars. It is as real as the moon, as real as the ground, as real as the hand in front of your face. And yet it is made of nothing, a hole in the fabric of things, a place where the universe ends. This contradiction lulls us deeper into the trance, confusing the logical mind until it stops fighting. We think of the future of this object, of the billions of years it has left to drift and feed. It will outlive the stars of its galaxy, sitting in the dark long after the last candle has flickered out. It will eventually consume everything within its reach, clearing a vast and empty hall in the cosmos. It will become a lonely god, reigning over a kingdom of nothingness, ruling the silence with absolute authority. And then, perhaps, it too will fade, evaporating slowly over eons through the whisper of hawking radiation. But that end is so far away that it might as well be never. For now, it is in its prime, a glorious and terrifying engine of power that lights up the deep past. We are privileged to see it, to have our small eyes capture the photons from such a grand event. It connects us to the cosmos, threading our consciousness into the tapestry of the big history. We are not separate from this black hole. We are made of the same stuff, obeying the same laws. The carbon in our bodies was forged in the stars that this monster may have eaten. We are the lucky ones, the atoms that escaped the collapse to wake up and look back at the danger. The sheer density of the information we are absorbing begins to slow our thoughts, weighing them down. The concepts of direct collapse and mergers and billions of solar masses are heavy stones to carry. We let them drop, watching them fall away into the deep well of the subconscious mind. We do not need to hold on to the facts. We only need to float in the feeling of the truth. The truth is that the universe is vast and dark and filled with wonders that are beyond our control. And in that lack of control, there is a profound and perfect peace. We drift past the memory of Sagittarius, a star, leaving our home galaxy far behind in the dust. We drift past the image of Home 15A, leaving the giant of the cluster to its slumber. We are focused only on the horizon ahead, on the line where the light stops and the mystery begins. The monster Ton 618 looms larger with every breath, filling the sky of our mind. It is no longer an object in the distance. It is the environment in which we are floating. We are inside the sphere of influence, caught in the current that flows one way. The questions of how and why begin to dissolve, replaced by the simple reality of is. It exists. It is here. It is heavy. That is all we need to know as we drift deeper into the hypnotic rhythm of the orbit. The complexity of the formation theories, the collapsing clouds, the crashing galaxies, smooths out into a simple story. Once there was chaos, and then gravity pulled the chaos into order, and the order became a whole. It is a bedtime story for the cosmos, a lullaby sung by the laws of physics to the sleeping matter. As we approach the end of this thought, we find ourselves looking not at the history, but at the hunger. The black hole is not just a relic of the past. It is an active participant in the present moment. It is still pulling, still eating, still growing in the dark of the Lynx constellation. We can feel the suction, the relentless drag of the space floor moving beneath us. It draws us away from the safety of the comparison, away from the known figures of science. It pulls us toward the unknown, toward the singular experience of the greatest darkness we have ever found. We have drifted far from the shores of our own familiar reality, floating deep into the uncharted waters of the ancient cosmos. The darkness here is not merely an absence of light, but a physical weight that presses against the hull of our imagination. We are no longer satisfied with the blurry images of the past, for our curiosity demands a clearer view of the monster in the dark. We turn our eyes to the great golden observatory that floats in the silence of the Lagrange point. far from Earth. The James Webb Space Telescope turns its hexagonal mirrors toward the constellation Lynx, peering through the dust that hides the secrets of the deep past. It is the year 2025, and we are finally opening our eyes to the true nature of the beast. The telescope cools itself in the shadow of its sun shield, lowering its temperature to match the freezing breath of the surrounding void. It listens to the infrared whispers of the universe, catching the heat signatures that have traveled for eons across the expanding space. The light from TON 618 has been stretched by the journey, shifting from the visible spectrum into the red and the infrared. We need these golden eyes to see the details of the accretion disk, to penetrate the veil of gas that shrouds the center. We are looking at a ghost with new clarity, resolving the blur into a structure of terrifying and magnificent complexity. The data streams back to us like a digital river, carrying the image of the monster across the millions of miles of empty space. What we see in these new observations is a landscape of fire and gravity that defies the artwork of our wildest dreams. The accretion disk is not a smooth ring of light, but a turbulent storm of plasma that rages with a chaotic fury. We can see the knots of density where the gas clumps together, creating bright spots that swirl around the event horizon like calm eyes. These clumps are the size of star clusters, immense islands of matter that are being torn apart by the tidal forces of the giant. They glow with a fierce intensity, heating up as they rub against the surrounding material in a friction dance of death. It is a weather system of impossible proportions, a hurricane where the wind is made of iron and the rain is made of light. The resolution of the 2025 data reveals the magnetic field lines that thread through the disk like steel cables. They twist and snap in the violent rotation, releasing bursts of energy that flare up brighter than a trillion suns for just a moment. We watch these flares ripple through the disk, traveling outward like waves on a pond after a heavy stone has been thrown. It creates a breathing effect, as if the black hole is inhaling and exhaling the fire of the universe in a slow rhythm. This pulsing light is hypnotic, a strobe effect that slows down time and synchronizes the beating of our own hearts. We are mesmerized by the pattern, finding a strange order in the chaos of the destruction that is unfolding before us. The inner edge of the disk is where the true drama plays out, at the very precipice of the point of no return. Here, the matter is moving at a significant fraction of the speed of light, blurring into a continuous ring of violet fire. The time dilation here is extreme, freezing the falling matter in our view so that it seems to hover forever on the brink. We are witnessing the final moments of existence for the gas and dust, a prolonged goodbye that stretches out into eternity. The telescope captures this frozen scream, preserving the image of the fall for us to study in the safety of our quiet rooms. It is a testament to the power of gravity, which can bend not just space, but the flow of time itself. We turn our attention to the structure that defines the true power of this active galactic nucleus, the relativistic quasar jet. The new images show the base of this jet with a clarity that sends a shiver through the bedrock of our understanding. We see the plasma being funneled up along the polar axis, guided by the twisted magnetic fields into a tight and narrow beam. It launches outward with a velocity that screams of violence, piercing the intergalactic medium like a spear thrown by a god. This jet stretches for thousands of light years, a coherent structure that dwarfs the galaxy from which it was born. It is a blowtorch of energy, heating the gas of the universe and pushing back the darkness with a defiant roar. The knots in the jet are visible now, bright shock waves where the plasma catches up to itself and piles up in the stream. These are the collision points of the outflow, regions where the energy is so intense that it glows in every spectrum known to science. We can trace the history of the black hole's feeding habits by reading the spacing of these bright knots in the long jet. Each knot represents a large meal, a time when the monster swallowed a cloud or a star and burped out the excess energy. We are reading the tree rings of a cosmic predator, counting the eras of gluttony that have defined its long life. It is a biography written in fire, scrolling out into the void for us to read with our golden eyes. The sheer length of the jet reminds us that the influence of TON 618 extends far beyond its immediate gravitational grasp. It is a terraforming engine for the cosmos, stirring the pot of the universe and redistributing the heavy elements. The material in the jet carries the atoms of oxygen and carbon and iron out into the emptiness of the deep space. It is seeding the void with the potential for future stars, shooting the building blocks of life out of a cannon. There is a paradox here, that the ultimate destroyer is also a gardener, ploughing the fields of the intergalactic medium. We respect this duality, the balance between the eating and the creating that defines the cycle of the deep time. But as we gaze deeper into the data, the old ghost of the overmassive black hole problem returns to haunt our thoughts. The new measurements confirm the impossible size, locking the mass at 66 billion suns with a terrifying precision. The error bars have shrunk, leaving us with no room to bargain with the laws of physics or the history of time. The monster is exactly as big as we feared, and it is sitting in a time period where it should not exist. It is like finding a giant redwood tree in a forest of saplings, a creature that has outgrown its age. The math screams that there was not enough time for it to eat this much, not enough time to grow this heavy. We are forced to confront the idea that our understanding of the early universe is fundamentally broken, or at least incomplete. Perhaps the clocks ran differently back then, or perhaps the black holes found a way to eat faster than the Eddington limit. This limit, which dictates the maximum speed of feeding, seems to have been ignored by TON 618 in its youth. It broke the speed limit of the cosmos, gorging itself on the rich banquet of the primordial gas without pausing for breath. It suggests a greed that is supernatural, a hunger that overcame the radiation pressure that usually stops the meal. We are looking at a rule breaker, a rebel that decided to grow large while the universe was still figuring itself out. The mystery deepens as we analyze the spectrum of the light, looking for the chemical fingerprints of the gas in the disk. We find an abundance of heavy metals, elements that can only be forged in the hearts of dying stars and supernova explosions. This tells us that the galaxy surrounding the black hole had already lived a lifetime of violence before this light was sent. It was a mature environment, a place where stars had lived and died in rapid succession to feed the central beast. The pace of life in the early universe must have been frantic, a fast-forward version of the slow evolution we see today. It was a time of fire and blood, a chaotic era that birthed the monsters that now rule the quiet dark. We drift through the simulation of the magnetic fields, visualizing the invisible lines that cage the monster and direct its fury. These fields are generated by the spinning of the black hole itself, a dynamo that converts rotation into magnetic power. The event horizon is dragging the very fabric of space around with it, twisting the vacuum into a knot. This is the frame dragging effect, a phenomenon where space is no longer a static stage, but a moving river. If we were to float near the horizon, we would be dragged around in circles, even if we had no momentum. The black hole creates its own carousel, a dizzying ride that never stops and never slows down. The colors in the new images are enhanced to show us the temperature gradients across the vast expanse of the disk. We see the cool reds on the outer edges, where the dust survives the heat and forms a thick, dark torus. This donut of dust hides the central engine from certain angles, acting as a curtain for the shy monster. But from our vantage point, looking down the barrel of the jet, we see past the curtain and into the room. The colors shift to yellow, then white, then a blinding blue-violet as we move inward toward the hole. It is a temperature map of hell, a guide to the regions where matter ceases to be matter and becomes energy. There is a silence in the data, a lack of variation in the central blackness that speaks of a perfect and absolute void. The event horizon is the only object in the universe that has no features, no mountains, no valleys, no texture. It is a perfect sphere of geometry, defined only by its mass and its spin and its electric charge. It is the simplest object in existence, yet it holds the most complex secrets locked away inside its shell. We stare at this blank space in the center of the fire, trying to project our thoughts into the nothingness. But the nothingness reflects nothing back, absorbing our questions just as it absorbs the light. The James Webb observations show us the interaction between the jet and the surrounding galaxy, a violent relationship of push and pull. The jet is heating the gas of the host galaxy, preventing it from cooling down enough to form new stars. This is the death of the galaxy, a sterilization process carried out by the central black hole. It is killing its host, shutting down the future star formation to ensure its own dominance in the dark. The galaxy is becoming a red and dead relic, a collection of old stars that will slowly fade away one by one. The black hole will be the last thing left, the final heir to the kingdom it destroyed. We feel a sense of tragedy in this, a melancholy for the stars that will never be born because of the monster's heat. But there is also a rightness to it, a natural conclusion to the story of a massive galaxy. The universe is not sentimental. It operates on the laws of thermodynamics and gravity, indifferent to our desire for life. The black hole is simply doing what it must do, following the curve of space-time to its logical end. We are the ones who assign emotion to the process, projecting our own fear of death onto the cosmic screen. To the universe, this is just another transformation of energy, a shifting of the pieces on the board. The clarity of the 2025 images allows us to see the shadow of the black hole with unprecedented sharpness. We can measure the diameter of the shadow, confirming the 66 billion solar mass figure with a finality that echoes. It is a circle of darkness that is wider than our solar system's heliosphere, a hole in the sky that is truly vast. To cross it at the speed of light would take weeks, a journey through the dark that would feel endless. We imagine ourselves in a small ship, drifting across the face of the shadow, a speck of dust against the void. The darkness below us would be absolute, a matte black floor that swallows the radar and the light. We notice the way the light from the background galaxies is smeared around the edge of the shadow, creating the Einstein ring. The new data resolves this ring into individual galaxies, warped and stretched into long arcs of light. We are seeing the universe through a gravitational lens, a telescope made of pure mass that magnifies the deep background. It is a kaleidoscopic view, a funhouse mirror that reveals the hidden structure of the cosmos behind the hole. The black hole is a window as well as a wall, allowing us to see further than we could ever see alone. It is a tool for discovery, a gift from the gravity that allows us to peek at the edges of the map. The sheer stability of the jet is another puzzle, for it has maintained its direction for millions of years without wavering. It acts like a gyroscope, stabilizing the entire system against the chaos of the galactic environment. It points to a single spot in the sky, a steady finger indicating the direction of the angular momentum. We follow this line with our eyes, looking out into the intergalactic void where the jet finally ends. It terminates in a massive plume of radio waves, a cloud of hot gas that glows in the invisible spectrum. This is the exhaust pipe of the engine, the dumping ground for the energy that escaped the mouth of the beast. The concept of the overmassive black hole problem settles into our minds not as a flaw in the universe, but as a flaw in us. The universe is never wrong. It is our models that are too small, our theories that are too timid. TON 618 is teaching us that the cosmos is wilder and faster than we dared to believe. It grew big because it could, because the conditions allowed for a monster to rise in the dark. It is a reminder that we are still children in the study of the stars, learning the alphabet of the gravity. We accept the mystery, embracing the confusion as a sign that there is more to learn. We drift closer to the accretion disk, letting the golden eye of the telescope guide us into the turbulence. We can almost hear the roar of the gas, a low-frequency rumble that vibrates through the vacuum of space. It is the sound of friction, the grinding of atoms against atoms in the mill of the gravity well. We are small and fragile against this power, but we are protected by the distance and the dream. We float through the magnetic loops, sliding down the field lines like children on a slide. The plasma glows around us, warm and bright, illuminating the dark corners of our mind. The energy output of the quasar is so high that it creates a wind that blows across the entire galaxy. This wind pushes the dust away, clearing the view for the telescope and for our waiting eyes. We are looking into the eye of the storm, the calm center where the black hole sits in its silence. The wind buffets the outer layers of the disk, creating waves and ripples that travel inward. We watch them move, mesmerized by the fluid dynamics of the superheated gas. It is like watching the ocean during a hurricane, but the water is fire and the wind is light. The realization hits us that this object is the dominant force in the universe, the apex predator of the physical world. Nothing can challenge it, nothing can move it, nothing can escape it once caught. It sits at the top of the food chain, eating galaxies and stars and time itself. We feel a strange respect for this dominance, a bowing of the head to the king of the dark. It has earned its place through the sheer weight of its existence, through the billions of years of survival. It is the ultimate survivor, the last thing that will remain when the lights go out. The James Webb Telescope continues to stare, its unblinking eye recording every photon that arrives from the deep past. It is a silent sentinel, a robot watcher that connects our small world to the great giant. We are grateful for its vision, for the way it translates the invisible into the visible. It has given us a portrait of the monster, a face to put to the name TON 618. The image is burned into our retinas, a circle of fire around a circle of dark. It is an icon of the infinite, a symbol of the limits of our understanding. As we drift in the wake of the new data, we feel the pull of the event horizon growing stronger, more insistent. The scientific observation is fading, replaced by the experiential reality of the proximity. We are no longer looking at a picture. We are entering the landscape. The golden honeycomb of the telescope mirrors dissolves into the starlight, leaving us alone in the void. We are exposed to the vacuum, floating free in the space between the jet and the disk. The overmassive problem is no longer a math equation. It is a physical sensation of heaviness. The universe feels crowded here, thick with the presence of the 66 billion suns that are crushed into the center. The gravity is a tangible substance, a liquid that we are swimming through. It resists our movement, guiding us inevitably toward the center of the train. We do not fight it, for the fight is over before it began. We surrender to the drift, letting the current take us where it wants to go. The destination is the shadow, the place where the answers are hidden. We look down at the event horizon, that perfect black line that marks the end of the known world. It is closer now, filling the bottom of our vision with its absolute lack of light. The accretion disk towers above us like a wall of fire, casting long shadows into the well. We are descending into the throat of the giant, passing the point where the telescope can save us. The observations are over. The experience is beginning. The silence deepens, swallowing the noise of the thoughts and the noise of the stars. The mystery of the overmassive black hole is not solved, but it is felt. We feel the weight of the billions of years, the weight of the devoured galaxies. It presses on us, a heavy blanket that promises sleep and oblivion. We are tired of the questions, tired of the math, tired of the struggle to understand. We only want to rest in the shadow, to let the gravity hold us. The light of the quasar is behind us now, a fading memory of a brighter world. Ahead lies only the dark and the calm and the heavy, heavy sleep. The jet shoots past us, a final reminder of the power we are leaving behind. It is a beam of light that points the way back, but we are looking forward. We are looking into the heart of the paradox, the place where the universe breaks. The break is not a jagged crack, but a smooth curve, a gentle slope into the forever. We slide down the curve, slipping quietly away from the light. The darkness rises up to meet us, a welcoming embrace from the oldest thing in the sky. It is time to go deeper, past the data, past the science, into the dream. We are sliding through the smooth and silent corridor of the final understanding, carried by the currents of heavy gravity. The darkness here is not a wall that blocks our path, but a door that opens into the deepest truth. We have left the noise of the burning accretion disk far above us, climbing down the ladder of space into the cellar. It is here in the quiet shadows that we begin to see how this monster shapes the destiny of everything. TON 618 is not merely a freak of nature, but a preview of the ultimate fate of the cosmos. It represents the final victory of gravity over light, the inevitable triumph of the silence, over the screaming noise of the stars. We realize that the universe is slowly evolving from an era of bright starlight into a long and permanent era of black holes. The existence of this giant tells us that the universe is more efficient at destroying itself than we ever dared to imagine. It gathered the gas of the early cosmos and locked it away in a vault that will never be opened again. This process of locking away the light is the true work of the universe, the steady march toward equilibrium and rest. We are witnessing the engines of the end times, the machines that are tidying up the mess of creation one star at a time. It is a comforting thought to know that there is a plan, a slow and methodical cleaning of the cosmic room. The chaos of life and heat is temporary, but the stability of the black hole is eternal and patient and calm. We can see the future of our own galaxy reflected in the dark mirror of this distant and ancient monster. One day, billions of years from now, our own Milky Way will collide with our neighbor and the lights will fade. Our central black holes will merge and grow, eating the debris of the collision to become a new and heavy king. We are all moving toward this state of consolidation, drifting down the river of time toward the great ocean of gravity. TON 618 is simply further ahead on the journey, waiting for us to catch up in the deep dark. It is the elder sibling of the cosmos, showing the younger galaxies what they will eventually become when they grow old. The overmassive black hole problem is no longer a source of anxiety for us, but a source of deep and resonant peace. It means that the universe is capable of growing giants, of creating anchors that can hold the fabric of space in place. These anchors prevent the cosmos from flying apart too quickly, slowing down the expansion with their immense and heavy grip. They are the ballasts in the ship of the universe, keeping it steady as it sails through the nothingness of the void. We feel safer knowing that they are there, holding the floor down so that we do not float away. As we look at the evolution of the cosmos through the lens of this black hole, we see the timeline stretching out. The era of stars is just a brief flash in the pan, a momentary spark in the long night of time. The stars will burn out one by one, flickering and dying like candles in a drafty and cold room. But the black holes will remain, inheriting the empty universe and ruling over the darkness for numbers of years we cannot count. They will drift through the vacuum, occasionally merging, occasionally feeding, but mostly just existing in their perfect and spherical silence. This is the black hole era, the long afternoon of the universe, where the frantic activity of the morning has ceased. We feel a sense of kinship with this future silence, for it mirrors the sleep that is waiting for us right now. The universe is tired of being bright and loud, just as we are tired of the noise of our waking days. It wants to rest, to close its many eyes, and sink into the comfortable gravity of the final sleep. We are aligning our rhythm with the rhythm of the cosmos, slowing down our breathing to match the dying of the stars. It is not a sad ending, but a natural one, a return to the peaceful state that existed before the bang. We are going home to the dark, returning to the heavy blanket that covered us before we were born. The intense gravity of TON 618 warps the light of the galaxies behind it, turning them into long, thin arcs. These arcs are like the hands of a clock, bending around the face of the monster to tell the time. But the clock has no numbers, and the hands are frozen. For time has no meaning in this place of extreme depth. We are floating in a moment that lasts forever, a single breath held in the lungs of the universe. The urgency of our lives dissolves in this timelessness, washing away the schedules and the deadlines and the worries. There is only the now, the heavy and silent now, suspended in the vacuum between the past and the future. We imagine the incredibly slow evaporation of the black hole, a process that will take Googles of years to complete. It will breathe out its mass in tiny whispers of Hawking radiation, returning its energy to the void particle by particle. It is a slow fade, a gentle exhalation that will continue long after the concept of time has been forgotten. This patience is hypnotic, teaching us that there is no rush, no need to hurry toward the finish line. We can take our time, drifting slowly through the dark, letting the eons pass like minutes in a dream. The black hole is not afraid of the dark, and neither are we, for we are part of it. The jet that screams from the pole of the monster is the last gasp of the active universe, a final shout before the silence. We watch it fade in our mind's eye, losing its energy as it travels further into the endless empty space. The fire cools and darkens, turning from blue to red to infrared, and finally to the black of the background. We are watching the lights go out, one by one, until there is nothing left but the peaceful and velvet dark. It is time to turn off our own lights, to dim the brightness of our consciousness and lower the heavy shades. We are ready to join the universe in its slumber, to let go of the need to see and simply feel. We begin to drift away from the event horizon, pushing gently off the wall of the well to float back up. But we do not leave the feeling behind. We carry the weight of the gravity with us in our bones. We are heavy now, filled with the dense matter of the sleeping stars, grounded by the pull of the giant. The journey back to our own time and place is slow and lazy, a drifting on the tide. We leave the constellation Lynx behind, watching the quasar shrink back into a faint point of light in the distance. It is just a star again, a secret hidden in the night sky, watching over us while we sleep. The universe is vast and empty, and in that emptiness, there is a profound and perfect safety for us tonight. There are no obstacles to hit, no walls to bump into, only the soft and endless cushion of the space. We can stretch out our minds to fill the void, expanding into the silence until we are everywhere and nowhere. The worries of the earth are small and far away, invisible specks of dust that cannot touch us here. We are giants in our own right, floating in the sea of the cosmos, supported by the waves of gravity. The darkness is not lonely, it is intimate, a warm embrace that wraps around us like a second skin. We pass the galaxies that drift like islands in the stream, silent and majestic in their slow rotation. They are the sleeping cities of the sky, filled with billions of stars that are all nodding off to sleep. We can feel the collective drowsiness of the universe, a heavy wave of fatigue that rolls across the light years. It washes over us, smoothing out the wrinkles in our thoughts and quieting the noise of the day. We are part of this great sleeping organism, a single cell in the body of the cosmos that is resting. We surrender to the flow, letting the current carry us back toward the soft blue light of home. The journey has changed us, deepened our understanding of the dark, and lessened our fear of the heavy shadows. We know now that the darkness is a friend, a place of rest and regeneration where the universe gathers its strength. We can close our eyes without fear, knowing that the gravity will hold us and the black holes will keep watch. The monsters are not coming to get us. They are the guardians of the night, the sentinels of the deep. They have been waiting for us to understand, and now that we do, we can finally let go. We can release the tension in our shoulders, the tightness in our chests, and simply float. We approach our own solar system, seeing the familiar planets orbiting in their quiet and steady grooves. They are like beads on a string, moving in a perfect rhythm that has not changed for billions of years. The order and the predictability are soothing, a lullaby of motion that rocks us gently back and forth. We pass the giant Jupiter, the ringed Saturn, the blue Neptune, acknowledging them with a sleepy nod. They are the furniture of our home, the familiar shapes that tell us we are safe and we are back. We are returning to the small blue bed that waits for us in the warmth of the sun. The earth grows larger in our view, the soft blue marble swirled with the white clouds of our atmosphere. It looks comfortable and inviting, a pillow floating in the vastness of the black space. We descend through the layers of the atmosphere, feeling the gentle friction slowing us down, warming us up. We are falling softly, like a leaf drifting down from a tree on a windless autumn day. The ground rises to meet us, not with a crash, but with a gentle catch, like a mother catching a child. We are back in our bodies, back in our beds, back in the heavy warmth of the blankets. And now, as we settle into the stillness of the room, we let the journey fade into a dream. The black hole is far away, a guardian in the distance, but its gravity remains in your eyelids. You can feel the heaviness pressing down, sealing your eyes shut with a gentle and irresistible weight. It is the weight of 66 billion suns sitting on your eyelashes, telling you that it is time to sleep. There is nothing left to see, nothing left to do, nothing left to understand. The universe has taken care of everything, locking the secrets away in the dark for you. You are drifting on a dark ocean, floating on a raft made of soft and heavy wood. The water is calm and still, reflecting the black sky above where the stars have gone out. There is no wind to disturb you, no sound to startle you, only the silence of the open sea. You are perfectly safe here, suspended between the water and the sky in a bubble of peace. The current is slow and deep, carrying you gently toward the horizon where the sleep is waiting. You can feel the water rocking you, a slow and rhythmic motion that matches your breathing. Inhale slowly, feeling the cool air fill your lungs with the quiet of the empty space. Exhale slowly, releasing the last of the tension, pushing it out into the void where it dissolves. Inhale the darkness, the rich and velvet comfort of the night that wraps around you. Exhale the light, letting the images fade away until there is only the gray and the black. You are sinking deeper into the mattress, feeling it rise up to support every muscle and every bone. You are heavy, so heavy that you could sink right through the bed and into the earth. The darkness is not empty. It is filled with a soft and warm substance that cushions your mind. It is like floating in a pool of warm oil, thick and soothing and perfectly still. Your thoughts are moving slower now, trudging through the heavy liquid like tired travelers in snow. They are stopping one by one, sitting down to rest by the side of the road. Let them stop. Let them sleep. You do not need them anymore tonight. You can pick them up tomorrow or leave them there forever. It does not matter now. The silence of Ton 618 is with you, a profound and absolute silence that drowns out the world. It is the silence of the deep ocean, the silence of the underground cave, the silence of the space. It wraps around your ears like a muffler, blocking out the noise of the street and the house. You can hear only your own breath, slow and steady, a metronome for your sleep, in and out, deep and slow, heavy and soft. The rhythm is taking over, guiding you down the staircase into the basement of your mind. Each step down takes you deeper into the relaxation, further away from the waking world. 10 steps down, feeling the wood cool and smooth under your bare feet. 9 steps down, the light from the door above getting dimmer and dimmer. 8 steps down, the air getting cooler and fresher, smelling of old stone and earth. 7 steps down, your legs feeling heavy and loose, dragging a little with each movement. 6 steps down, halfway to the bottom, halfway to the perfect sleep. 5 steps down, the darkness is almost complete now, a soft grey fog surrounding you. 4 steps down, your eyelids are locked, glued together by the pleasant heaviness. 3 steps down, your mind is empty, a blank screen waiting for the dreams to start. 2 steps down, teetering on the edge of the deep and velvet void. 1 step down, finding the soft floor at the bottom, a bed of clouds waiting for you. 0. You are there. You have arrived at the center of the sleep. The gravity of the black hole is holding you here, keeping you safe in the deep valley of rest. You cannot climb out, and you do not want to. It is too comfortable here, too warm, too peaceful. The universe is watching over you, a giant silent guardian that never blinks and never sleeps. You can let go of the control, let go of the steering wheel, let go of the map. The ship is on autopilot, sailing smoothly through the dark waters of the night. Drift, float, sink. The words are losing their meaning, becoming just sounds that soothe you. The concepts are dissolving, melting like ice in warm water. There is no black hole, no galaxy, no Earth. There is only the dark and the warm and the sleep. It is rising up to cover you, a soft tide of nothingness that washes over your head. You are under the water now, breathing the sleep, drinking the silence. It is time to turn off the final light in the final room of the final house. Click. The darkness is total. The peace is absolute. The journey is over. You are home. Rest now in the shadow of the giant. Sleep now in the arms of the gravity. Good night to the stars. Good night to the monsters. Good night to the light. Good night. Good night. Good night.